She demanded special treatment. He said no. Her comeback. 911. But the dispatcher who answered wasn't just any voice on the line. This call flipped her world upside down. I never thought my weekends would be defined by a metal gate. But when you live in a place like Stonehaven Estate, you get used to the rhythm of that slow iron swing, the buzz of a code being punched in, and the smug looks of neighbors who think rules were written for everyone except them. The thing about Stonehaven is it wasn't built for folks like me. My wife and I bought the property fair and square. We worked hard, saved every penny, and when the market dipped, we jumped on it. People smiled when we moved in, but their smiles didn't reach their eyes. My skin had already told them my story before I even introduced myself. I can live with stares. I can live with whispers. But what I don't tolerate is disrespect, not toward me. Not toward my wife, and not toward the house we bled to own. So when the HOA decided to tighten the rules about gate access, I thought, finally, something that'll keep the peace. Every homeowner got a passcode. No code, no entry, simple. That's when she showed up, Karen. I don't even need to say her last name. Around here, everyone knows her. Short blonde bob, voice like a rusty hinge, sunglasses that probably cost more than my mortgage. She strutted like she owned the pavement under her heels. And from the first day, she decided I didn't belong. The first incident was subtle. I was out trimming the hedges. She slowed her SUV to a crawl, rolled her window down, and said, "Gardeners should really use the service gate." I looked at her dead in the eyes and replied, "Good thing I'm not the gardener." Her face twitched. She sped off. That was strike one. But last Saturday, that was the day she drew the line. I was standing at the gate waiting for a delivery truck. The sun was already sinking low, casting the neighborhood in that orange glow that makes even fake smiles look warm. The gate opened for the truck, and right behind it, her SUV slid in like a snake under a door. No code, no pass. Nothing. I stepped forward, hand raised. Stop. Her window rolled down. She gave me that smirk. "It's me. You know me. Why waste time punching numbers when I live here?" I shook my head. "Rules are rules. Everyone uses the code. You included." Smirk twisted. "You're joking, right? Do you even know who I am?" I leaned in just enough so she couldn't mistake my tone. "Yes. That's why I'm telling you to back up and punch the code." The silence hung heavy. Her face flushed red. For a split second, I thought she might reverse, swallow her pride, and just enter the code like every other neighbor. But no. She slammed her SUV in park, flung open the door, and marched toward me like she was about to evict me from my own driveway. "This is harassment," she barked, pointing a manicured finger in my face. "You're targeting me. You think you're some kind of gatekeeper? I'll have you reported." I kept my cool. "You can call whoever you want. But this gate doesn't open for entitlement." That was it. She yanked out her phone. I could see the fire in her eyes as her fingers danced across the screen. "Fine," she hissed. "Let's see how you like it when the police are involved." I didn't flinch. I didn't even blink. But deep down, a storm brewed. I knew exactly what this was. Not about a gate. Not about rules. It was about me, my skin. My refusal to bow down. She lifted the phone to her ear, pacing like she was on stage. And then the words fell, sharp as a blade. "Yes, I'd like to report a man threatening me at the Stonehaven gate." I laughed. Not out loud. Just inside. Because what she didn't know, what she couldn't possibly know, was that the voice on the other end of that line wasn't just any dispatcher. It was my wife, and Karen had just dialed her own humiliation into existence. But at that moment I stayed quiet. I wanted to see how far she'd go. I wanted to watch her dig her own grave with every exaggerated word, every lie that dripped from her mouth. I crossed my arms and leaned against the gate. Giving her the stage she so desperately wanted, her voice rose, shrill and desperate. "He's blocking the gate. He's refusing to let me in. I don't feel safe." If only she could have seen the smile tugging at the corners of my wife's lips as she listened, headset on, eyes sparkling with recognition. But me, I just waited. Because the beauty of karma is patience. And patience is something I've mastered. The sound of her SUV's engine idling, the buzz of the cicadas, the faint echo of my own heartbeat, all of it blended into a single moment stretched long. And in that moment, I knew she had no idea her call for justice had already sealed her fate. Could you imagine the shock on her face when she realized who was on the other line? Hit the like button if you think this HOA Karen deserved this karmic justice. And tell me in the comments below, what would you have said to the dispatcher if you were the homeowner? When you've been married as long as I have, you can tell a lot from your spouse's silence. My wife's voice never wavered when she answered emergency calls. But I could picture the grin pulling at her cheeks the moment she heard Karen's tone. "Ma'am." "Slow down," she said calmly, just like she'd said 1,000 times before. "What's happening exactly?" Karen wasted no time layering her story with fear. "He's huge, standing in front of my car, blocking me from getting home. I told him I lived here, but he refuses to let me in. I'm scared for my life." Scared for her life? I almost laughed out loud. If there was a threat here, it wasn't me. It was her ego, cornered and scratching at anything it could reach. My wife's voice came steady through the receiver, pressed against Karen's ear. "Okay, ma'am. And what's his name?" Karen hesitated, shooting me a look that could cut steel. "I don't know his name. He doesn't belong here." That was the moment I saw it, the assumption. The lie so big it made her look small. She wasn't just mad about a gate code. She wanted me gone. Erased. Invisible. "All right," my wife said, still calm, still professional. "Where exactly are you right now?" Karen puffed up her chest, proud as ever. "The entrance of Stonehaven Estate. Hurry, please, I don't feel safe." I folded my arms and let her stew in the performance. She had no idea the dispatcher was my wife. No idea that every exaggeration, every lie, was landing in the ears of the woman who shared my bed, my meals, and my life. And my wife? She was sharp enough to play along. "Okay, ma'am," she said, voice like honey hiding steel. "I'll need a full description." Karen's eyes flicked to me, narrowing as though she were sketching my face in her mind. She stammered, "He's a tall black man. Muscular. Aggressive. He's blocking my way."
Oh, there it was.
Not just entitlement. Not just arrogance. But fear weaponized into lies. The thing about my wife ISI doesn't miss a detail. She took it all in, every poisonous word, but her voice never cracked. "Understood. And are you in immediate danger?" Karen hesitated. Her shoulders stiffened. She knew the question was a trap. I think so, yes. He could snap at any second. I tilted my head, raised an eyebrow, and gave her the slowest, most deliberate smile I could muster. Because I knew what my wife was writing in her report. I knew she was building a wall of evidence with every second Karen spoke, and then came the twist of the knife. "All right, ma'am," my wife said. "Stay on the line with me. Units are being dispatched. But before they arrive, tell me again? Did you say this man was blocking the gate?" Karen almost shouted with relief. Yes, exactly. "He won't let me through." My wife's voice stayed calm, but I could imagine the sparkle in her eye. Interesting. Because according to HOA policy, isn't every resident supposed to use their own access code? Karen froze. Her mouth fell open like she'd swallowed air wrong. She stuttered. "Bubuel, yes," but my wife cut her off, sharp enough to slice pride. "So the man is following the rules. And you're not." I swear. I could feel the air shift. Karen's face turned crimson, her lips trembling with rage she couldn't voice. She'd just realized the ground beneath her performance had caved in, and she had no way to climb out. I leaned against the gate, enjoying the silent stretch, enjoying the way her world was tilting against her. She thought she was calling the cavalry. Instead, she'd handed the sword to my wife. "Stay on the line," my wife added smoothly. "Help is on the way." But we both knew help wasn't what Karen was going to get, and I wasn't about to lift a finger. Watching her unravel was the sweetest kind of revenge. Karen stood there, her phone pressed tight against her ear, waiting for the cavalry that would never come. She didn't know she was already standing trial in the quiet court of her own arrogance. The SUV behind her honked. Another neighbor pulled up, confused, staring at the scene unfolding at the gate. The pressure was mounting, and Karen flushed red. Trembling with fury, was unraveling in front of her own audience. I leaned back, arms folded, and let it play out. There was no need to raise my voice. The louder she screamed, the clearer the truth became. "Ma'am," my wife's voice came through steady, calm, almost sweet. "I need you to clarify again. Is he threatening you physically?" Karen snapped. "Yes, he's standing there, menacing." "You don't understand." "Standing there," my wife repeated flatly, like a judge striking a gavel. "Not touching you, not saying anything threatening, just Standing, Karen sputtered. You're twisting my words. The neighbor behind us rolled down their window. What's going on, Karen? Why don't you just use the code? Her head whipped around so fast I thought she'd break her neck. Stay out of this, she snapped, but her voice cracked. The authority she once carried was crumbling with every witness who saw the truth. And then came the final blow. Ma'am, my wife said, her tone turning sharper now, you said this man doesn't belong in your community. But according to property records, the name of the homeowner at that address is the same as his. Karen froze. Her phone slipped slightly from her grip. WH what? The line went quiet except for my wife's voice, calm but laced with steel. You've just made a false report, ma'am. That's a serious offense. For your own sake, I suggest you return to your vehicle and follow the community rules like everyone else. Her face drained of color. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. The neighbor behind her let out a low whistle, shaking his head. I couldn't resist anymore. I leaned forward, my voice steady but heavy with satisfaction. Looks like the dispatcher isn't buying it, Karen. Maybe you should call again and ask for special treatment. See how far that gets you? Her jaw tightened. She glared at me, eyes full of venom but powerless to strike. Slowly she turned, got back into her SUV, and slammed the door. The gate buzzed as she finally entered the code she'd been too proud to use. The iron bars swung open, and she drove inside without another word. I stood there, letting the moment wash over me, not anger, not even triumph. Just the quiet satisfaction of knowing that justice, for once, didn't need fists or fury, it only needed truth. When I got back home, my wife was waiting. She was off shift by then. And the second I walked through the door, she smirked. So, did she enjoy her call? I laughed, shaking my head. I hung herself with her own words. My wife kissed my cheek and whispered, that's the thing about people like her. They think the system works only for them. But sometimes, the system has a funny way of flipping the script. And in that moment I realized Karen hadn't just lost a battle at the gate. She'd lost her grip on the neighborhood. People had seen. People had heard. And her mask of control had cracked wide open. She wanted me out. She wanted me erased. Instead, she'd handed me the kind of victory that echoes louder than any argument. Because in Stonehaven Estate, after that night, the story wasn't about the gate anymore. It was about the woman who called 911 only to find her greatest enemy wasn't me. It was karma.